안녕하세요. C 라디오 청취자 여러분. 오늘도 여러분 반갑게 만나게 되었습니다. 오늘 특별한 손님을 모시게 됐는데요. 저희 C톡 시간인데요. 오늘 필라델피아에서 특별히 한인 사회를 위해서 열심히 섬기시고 봉사하시는 릭 카탈디 변호사님을 모셨습니다. 특별히 모신 이유는요. 이번 필라델피아에서 판사로 출마를 하시게 되었습니다. 그리고 그래서 이 한국 커뮤니티와의 참 많은 그 경험, 또 많은 그런 이야기들도 많은데요. 특별히 오늘 이 C톡을 청취하고 계시는 분들 가운데, 또 시청하고 계시는 분들 가운데 아마 지금 릭 카탈디 변호사님을 알아보시는 분들이 많이 있을 것 같습니다. 오늘 여러분들에게 소개하겠고요. 인터뷰는 영어로 하게 되겠습니다. 영어로 하고요. 인터뷰 내용은 저희가 그 유튜브를 포스팅할 때 그 밑에 한국말로 그 인터뷰 내용들을 소개하도록 하겠습니다. 그럼 지금부터 영어로 인터뷰를 시작합니다. 많이 계속해서 관람해 주시기 바랍니다. Hello, Rick. It's very nice to have you with us, and we really welcome you to C Radio.
Thanks, Sam. I would be remiss if I did not say anasio. It's only right. It's several of the Korean words I've learned over my long years of practice, and I appreciate having you invite me here. I appreciate that.
Of course, many people in the Korean community already know you, or if they don't know you personally, they probably know you by name. And so it is wonderful to have you. And it's I have indicated in my introduction to the Korean audience that not only are you familiar with the Korean community, but also that you are running as a judge for the Common Police Court in Philadelphia. And so we're going to be asking you some questions regarding, where you have been in your life, and also, about your law practice, and also about your relationship with the Korean community, as well as other communities in the city. And then we'll also be asking you about, why you're running for judge, and that will wrap up our interview. And so let me ask you just briefly, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I know that by your name, you're Italian in background, right? So tell us a little bit about that and your family and background.
Okay, so my grandfather was first generation, my mother's father, and him and my grandmother came over from Italy in the 20s. My mother, and he was a military grandfather. He was a worker, an iron worker. And then they had 8. Amazingly, all of them successful except my mother, which was bizarre. My mother married the wrong man. She had 2 sons besides myself with him. We were raised in the Port Richmond section of Philadelphia. My mother was very sickly. We were on food stamps and welfare, and the 4 of us lived on $40.50 every 2 weeks from welfare. And it was the generosity of this Italian American pocket of Port Richmond, Mother of Divine Grace Church, that paid for us to go to grade school in a Catholic environment, that paid for us to go to North Catholic High School in that environment.
I see.
It's just amazing. It was amazing, the love that community provided towards my mother. And then she died when I was 17.
I see. So, I mean, she died fairly early, because you're only a teenager. I mean, it's a late stage teenage, but nonetheless, you're 17. And so how did you cope with the, loss of your, mother at that age?
No, it was horrible. It was really horrible. I was spiraling and I was lost. I had 2 older brothers. They left me in the family home. So I was 17 on my own and in a home. I tried to go to temple, but I could not focus. I was there physically, but I could not tap into the classes intellectually. Yeah. And then I tried like other avenues. I tried like a welding school. I got my real estate license and sold some real estate. I was a roofer for 3 years. And then ultimately I became a waiter at a steakhouse called Morton Steakhouse in Center City, Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Um,
So, I mean, so it sounds like, your struggles and trials and the hardships in life, have really prepared you to be the person that you are today, and perhaps even prepared you for the profession you're in, and maybe even the judgeship. So, can you tell us a little bit about that and the connection, and how your past experience will serve as a really solid background and guide for the future?
well, part of it is I probably, my life came to, I didn't go to college till I was 28. Didn't graduate from law school till I was 35, both at Temple and Temple Law School. Um, and I, that shouldn't have happened. From
Hmm.
where I came from, that should not have happened. From where I came from, there were no goals and aspirations for me because I was in so much pain and grief and blamed. I literally blamed God. You didn't give me a father and you take my mother. I was really upset with God. If this is your plan, why are you taking it out on me? I mean, I was a kid. Um, but I ran into some people that were involved in a spiritual process, and I believed it, that these things, this past has made me the father I am today. The past has given me fortitude to work hard, to work two jobs or work full time while going to law school every day, to advocate as a lawyer for people of the Hispanic community, the Latino community, the African American community, the white community, the Korean community, Cambodians, Haitians, Ivory Coast Africans, and I don't see color. I don't see hatred. I see value in everyone because other people saw value in me, Sam.
Yes.
They saw value in me
Yeah.
and gave me a shot.
Right. And so, you mentioned God, and can you talk a little bit about the significance of God in your life, and what it means today for you?
God is in the fabric of every relationship that we enter into. And I believe that this whole process was a God plan. You know, it didn't even make sense to me that I was now in law school, 31 years old, and people would look, they were all kids, and they would look at me and go, what are you doing here? I said, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be really good at this job. And it's God is interwoven in the fabric of my being. That's the belief that
Yeah.
I've been on a path. My career has been helping people,
Right.
whether injured or disabled. I've been helping people for over 25 years as a lawyer.
Right.
And I feel that there's direction. I think I really wish that God would give us better, like cliff notes, or drop us a letter here and there.
Yeah.
Hey, someone dropped me a note the other day and it said, "Hey, Rick, I know what I'm doing. Love God." I was like, yeah. Yeah. In trials and tribulations, I always try to float downstream, like peacefully, but life is all about bumps,
Right.
and it's who we go to when there's bumps in the road. It's who we go to when there's joy. I mean, and I've been doing that for a long time, Sam. I've been doing that for a really long
Right.
time.
So, you mentioned helping others, and I gather from having spoken with you that that is sort of a theme in your life, helping others. And could you also, help our audience and our listeners understand what that means for your law practice, helping others?
For my law practice, I'm one of those above and beyond guys. One of those guys who comes, if you people really don't value the fact that a train costs $3,
Hmm.
and they say, well, no, I'll come to your office. I'll be like, no, I'll come to your house. I've
Okay.
always been that guy. I'll come right to your house.
Okay.
I don't want to inconvenience you to come into I'm not, what do you want to see my office for what? I mean, it's a whole floor of a high rise. Is that what you don't need to see that? I'll come right to your home and I'll sit at your dining room table and we'll get to be friends. And you'll say, who was that guy when I left?
Mm.
Right. And you'll say, wow, wow. Right. And that's in every community. Right. There are so many people that are less fortunate that that are out there still 50 years later, just like my mom, living below the poverty line, living
Right.
without.
Yeah.
my law practice is one piece. My law practice has always been successful because I'm a person that is trustworthy. I'm a person that treats people with mutual respect and dignity, no matter what station of life. And that is a gift, a real gift that I was given by watching horrible things happen to other people, especially my mom.
Yeah, you really are a different kind of lawyer. I mean, to make a house visits, to come and volunteer to be where the clients are, where the people that are there that need the help are, is I think it's a rare trait now, right? I mean, as you're I think you mentioned that you're about 60 years old now, and I am a few years older than you, Rick.
Oh, you look younger.
Yeah. So, yes, but as a lawyer to lawyer, I mean, it's not an easy thing for a lawyer to do, to leave the office and get into a car and drive over and see the person where they are. And so that really, I think, sets you apart from many lawyers.
It's not just that.
Yeah.
That's just a courtesy. That really is just a courtesy. Right. What sets me apart from other lawyers is I treat people with respect.
Okay.
And I'm kind. I'm just no offense, Sam. I'm not saying that I'm trying to stereotype that, but there was a time where the legal profession was ran by gentlemen. And you told me you were a lawyer for 35 years, and I you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Where a shake of a hand was your bond.
Yes.
All of my mentors as a young lawyer were gentlemen.
Right.
Or handshake. This still means something to me.
I remember those days. I do remember those days.
The young people don't really appreciate that much, but the people that are my age and a little older and a little younger know that you could be a gentleman and practice law. You don't have to be, and I'm extremely aggressive. Don't get me wrong. You ask any person that has been into a trial courtroom with me, and they'll tell you I'm extremely aggressive. But that doesn't mean I don't have to be nice.
Well, you're representing your clients, and it's one thing, and but it doesn't mean you can be. It doesn't mean aggressiveness does not mean nastiness, right?
Right.
You can be aggressive properly and really do a wonderful job. And I think that is the reputation that we hear, and so that's great. Now, so in your practice, I know that you have had many encounters with the Korean clients, with the Korean community. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with the Korean community? How what you feel for the community, and how what are some of the things you observe about the Korean community?
Well, I'll tell you, you know what, and it's wonderful. I really love the Korean community, and it's really because your priorities are right. And I there's God, and then there's family, then there's friends, and then there's food, which is really a good combination. And very much like the Italian Americans, we start with God, and it's family, and it's friends, and then we go to food. The Koreans have a value system that they pass on to their children that was very much like the first generation of Italian Americans that came here, where you provide your children with work ethic. You provide your children with a better platform than you got it, even better than you got it. And I've always known that about the Korean Americans that come here. The Korean American community is a vibrant part of our Philadelphia landscape. I mean, business owners and store owners, and it's just wonderful. And the Korean people are always respectful. I don't know who raised all you Korean people, but they must have been wonderful people, because most of the business owners are wonderful people, right? You very rarely will find somebody who is not nice. You know what I mean? And that's, I think maybe it takes 3 or 4 generations before you get really mean. I don't know. There's so much meanness in the world. The Koreans are lovely people. They're not mean. There's a sense of loyalty. If you do a good job, they'll tell 100 people about you. There's the churches talk about you. There's papers, and there's H Mart, and there's Aussie Market, and there's all these places that I interact with people, and I've been in it for 25 years, and I love Korean people because, and by the way, your food is fantastic. Fantastic. Cereal bowl. is fantastic.
All right.
Gobu is fantastic. You know, so it's a lot. There's a lot of similarities
Yeah.
between your first generation Americans and ours. It's really neat to see it.
Yeah.
And you don't always see it.
Right. So one commonality between the Italian community and the Korean community, or I should say the Italians in general and the Koreans in general, is that they're passionate. They're passionate for life, right? You see that in their speech, in their hand gestures, and you see that in their work ethics. You see all of that, and they're very passionate. And there's another commonality a lot of people may not realize, that their love for garlic is very common for both communities. And then there's another thing that's common. They're both from the peninsulas, right? The Italian peninsula and the Korean peninsula. And so there are a lot of the things, the temperaments are very similar. And so it's really interesting that the Koreans would really enjoy the Italian food, and you would think the Italians would enjoy the Korean food. So yeah, so obviously, you've had a lot of experience with the Korean community. Now, want to move on a little bit about why you like to run as for judge, and you have a successful career as an attorney. You've done a lot in your life. What is it that you see in being a judge?
I'm running for judge because I specifically want to be a family court judge. A family court judge.
Okay.
When people are elected judge, they don't say, "Oh, put me in family court." It's the last place a person would want to be, because it's a horrible, emotion-driven environment that's degrading to Philadelphia citizens, that's degrading and demoralizing to children.
I see.
The children don't have a voice. And that's ultimately where I want to go. I don't think I will start there after I win this election. I believe that is ultimately where I want to go, which is a natural progression of my career and my practice, which is my primary purpose in life is to help other people achieve better, to provide a platform where people can grow, to keep families unified in situations where there's poverty, which is the #1 disease in the world,
Right.
where there's mental illness, where there is abuse, neglect, where there's got to be a structure in place. And I think as a judge, and people say, "Well, how are you going to do that?" I said, "I'm going to turn the system upside down, because clearly it's broken. And I don't want to fix it. I want to create anew. I want to learn how to treat people." This is an environment that's extremely volatile. Court is extremely volatile. A judge in family court could take your children from you, could put you in prison, could put your children in harm's way, could put you in harm's way, so you'll never see your children. Like, there's so many facets to it that aren't addressed, that I believe need to be addressed. And my passion is driving me, my career is driving me, my God is driving me to do something more for the community.
Yeah.
I do it as a lawyer, but you can effectuate a lot of change in a person's life, one good man, one good person, one instance at a time. But there has to be somebody who's creating case law from the bench that's going up to the Supreme Court that changes things,
Right.
on a day-to-day level with people.
I see.
And that's really the driving force. And that's why I want, listen, the largest Korean American population is in Philadelphia County. I would love to have all the votes from the Korean community.
Sure. So I was going to ask you, how the Korean community can help you with your election. So obviously you want the Korean community to vote for you. And I think you can probably call your clients, and you probably have enough votes to get elected. That's how many Korean clients you probably have.
Right.
But obviously, yeah. And Yeah, and I think that's a really a very good and interesting thought. You know, specifically running, for this judgeship for to serve on the family court. And is that in part because of your experiences in your family? We talked also about, prior to this interview, talked about how you have brought in some children into your family, and you brought in all the stories. Could you talk about that a little bit, so that people will have a better understanding of what is motivating you, to be a judge in the family court?
That's great. Yeah, let's try to do this. I've been in conversations where he said 3 minutes, counselor. So I could do anything in a minute or less.
Right. Sure.
So I have my wife and I have 6 kids. I've been married twice. My first marriage to my ex-wife, Sandy Cataldi, she and I had a biological child, which was very high risk. So 4 years later, we adopted my son, Oliver. That's my daughter, Emma. We adopted my son, Oliver, from a single mother in Kensington, which is a lower income area of Philadelphia. And 3 days later, he was legally ours forever.
Mm.
So, and that relationship lasted 19 years. The kids were in 3rd grade and 9th grade when we got separated and eventually divorced. And I met my second wife, Melanie Cataldi, who is the chief impact officer at Philabundance, who was never married and never had children prior to me. And she bought into my big crazy life.
Mm.
She really did. I'm very blessed. I believe me, God presented her to me. I was, really very fortunate. And in our relationship of 13 years and our marriage of 7, we've got 3 grown children that went through horrific abuse and neglect, either in foster care or worse systems. And all the abuse that you could think of, the most horrific things that you could think of. And they're in our family as what we call chosen daughters, and it's part of our chosen family.
Sure.
And our 15-year-old Abigail comes from foster care, and we were trying to adopt her years ago, and it just didn't go the way God planned it to go at that moment. Like, I thought it was going to go my way, but it didn't. Right. And it went the way God wanted to go. And this poor girl that's with us now and her sister were in a very volatile situation, put in harm's way and really abused, very poorly treated, and never given an opportunity. And we were given an opportunity to adopt this child. She's been living with us since May, coming out of a fire, basically.
Right.
And moving in with us and needing major love and mental health treatment and PTSD treatment and all that stuff. So that's my family.
Right. I mean, so you have this very special love for people that are in need, the people that are in need of the family, right? I mean, that's been your life, and try to provide opportunities to these individuals who needed the sense of belonging, sense of family, and I think that really provides you with the tremendous background and motivation for running for judge, and particularly to serve as a judge on the family court. Now, with regard to your election, what are some of the things that's going to happen in terms of campaign schedule, events, and how they can get in touch with you, things like that?
So the website is www.cataldiforjudge, Cataldi with the word for, FOR judge.com. That will allow people to see more about who I am, see pictures of my family, see pictures of my clients, see pictures of the community. There are links to donate if you'd like to donate onto that. There's a Facebook page, Cataldi for Judge. There's a Venmo account, Cataldi for Judge. There is a PayPal account, Cataldi for Judge.
Okay.
So all you have to do is look right now, and it's everywhere. But let me just tell your listeners about a couple of things you may not know about. What's going on right now is mail-in ballots are coming out.
Right.
Mail-in ballots are laid out very differently than the actual ballots at the poll. Mail-in ballots for common pleas court, there's a row of 16 judges' names. And the top judge is the Supreme Court candidate is number one. The last judge in municipal court is way at the bottom of that list of judges. So on the mail-in ballots, you actually have to fill in a blank. And for common pleas court this term, there are 8 judges to be elected. There are 16 candidates.
I see.
If you were to push a button, it'd be button number 20. If you were to vote for me, if you were to fill in a blank, it'd be blank number 20, which sits right in the middle of the list of common pleas court judges.
Okay.
So that's going to be coming out and rolling out by Friday this week. Mail-ins are going to be mailed out. But after that, it's very neat, the ballot. I got very fortunate, it's a very fortunate position because when you look at the ballot, the Democratic ballot, which says pick 8 judges, there's still 16 names. My name is in the top row or top button in the 3rd row. So 1, 2, 3 over, top button. And it's a great driving force that really has propelled me. So right now, Sam, what's going on is there are fundraisers. I have a fundraiser tomorrow night being thrown by Shelley Electric and Nika, which is a large electrical contractor who believe in me and are supporting me and are throwing a fundraiser for me. The Korean Business Association, I believe, is throwing a fundraiser for me at Sierra Bowl. That time and date has not been allotted yet. We haven't figured that out yet, which is so exciting. I'm so excited that was offered to me. Okay. I'm so humbled that was offered to me. Next Thursday, there's a cigar event in Fishtown at a local cigar lounge called Exhale being thrown by a carpenter who owns a Philadelphia Carpentry Systems, who's a union carpentry shop. So I have a lot of support. I have a lot of the union support and a lot of the union people backing me, not financially, but in terms of having people work like the streets for me.
Sure.
An election day thing. I'm not political, Sam. You know what they said to me? They said, you're going to need to raise all this money to win. I said, it's a judge job. I'm not a politician. I can't do anything for anybody. They said, you're still going to need to do that. And I said, I don't believe that's true. I believe that if I create a social media sensation, that if I put myself out there everywhere you could see a face and my name, that people will know. And the truth is, a lot of people don't know me, but most people know Angelo Cataldi, who's on the radio every day.
Right. That's
Angelo
right.
and I are not related. We are friends, but we're not related. Right. But I mean, just the name recognition. I've had an uncle with a 50-year car business. I've had a brother who owned Dino's Cafe, Napoleon Cafe, and Dino's Backstage in Glenside, which were phenomenal restaurants. I have my current wife, who everybody knows from Philip Bunditz, who's on the news more than most people that I know, and she's very poised, by the way. She's nothing like me. She's extremely professional. I'm a little bit more, like you said, passionate. Yes. Sometimes it's a little too passionate.
Yeah, no, I think the passion is really good. And I think your passion does come through. And I'm glad it's coming through. And your passion for life and passion for others and passion for the needy. I think all these things are very clearly visible. And I think it's a wonderful quality. And I'm glad that you've been an integral part of the Korean community, as you've been with many other communities. And but I just wanted to also just have you briefly comment on the recent incidences involving the Asian community, how they've been physically violated and at random. And what's your thoughts, just very briefly?
Yeah, well, I first saw it. I had a lot of Korean friends on Facebook, right? Judy Yu, I think, posted Stop Asian Hate. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And I had to start looking into it. I had to start following. And then all my friends that were Korean were putting up Stop Asian Hate. And I was like, what's going on? I think our last presidency has fueled a lot of hatred in this country, right? I think the Korean community is so successful in terms of first and second generation successes, and now third generation successes that are doctors and engineers and Forget even higher education. Business owners that were handed to them by their parents who created it as a first generation American, handed them a business that they take and they live a bountiful life. I mean, there is a jealousy of the successes of the Koreans, the Japanese, the Chinese. There is that out there. But that's not just Philadelphia. That's probably every major city in America that people have some kind of disdain, which makes no sense. Everybody was a first-time immigrant to this country at one time, right? I mean, I know my lineage. I know where we came from. I know we're from the back of the boot in Italy. I know where my grandfather was from. I've been there, right? So, and I've worked hard to make it better for my kids. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what you guys do. But a lot of Americans don't.
Yeah.
And they hate because of it.
Yeah. I also, I would like you to briefly comment on the recent verdict on the Derek Chauvin case in Minnesota, and then we can try to wrap up our interview. If you don't mind, if you can just briefly comment on the trial and the verdict and the significance of the trial and the verdict.
Well, I have to tell you, I haven't been following it because it was horrible. I haven't been following it because I as a person who saw a 9-minute video of what happened, and I couldn't unsee it. It was impossible to unsee.
Yeah.
I think the verdict was 100% justified. I hope the sentencing guidelines are extreme. No one should be allowed to treat someone like that. No one. No human being should be treated like that. So I was driving through my neighborhood. I was driving through Fairmount, and all day it was tension. All day you saw a black husband and wife on their porch sitting like tense, like waiting. You see people in town apprehensive. You felt a lot of apprehension in the air. And it was, the media does wonderful just to promote the tension all around America by putting it on CNN, right? They put it on, let's just make everybody tense, right? So the verdict comes out, and I'm driving through my neighborhood, and I see this young African-American woman, sun shining in her face in yesterday's beautiful weather. Right, I roll my window down and I catch her eye and I say, "Young lady, was the verdict rendered?" And she said, "Guilty on all counts." And I said, "Praise God." I said, "You feel safe?" I looked at her at the window and I said, "You feel safe?" She said, "Yep. Thanks for asking." I said, "I feel safe." I said, and she said, "Have a good night, sir." It was like it kind of like it was a microcosm of, I think, what the nation felt. It was like a deep cleansing breath of what the nation felt, all races, all colors, all creeds, all religions. It was a breath of relief, because if it went the other way, I believe major cities in America would be on fire right now, destroyed, that we've already seen it.
All right. So, Rick, thank you so much for joining us for this interview. And we look forward to perhaps seeing you again in the future, but we certainly wish you the very best in your election. And we certainly hope that you'll be able to receive a lot of support from the Korean community and other communities that you have worked very closely with. And I think your passion I'm sure will draw a lot of people. And so we're so glad to hear some of your personal stories, and we really appreciate you sharing your personal stories and how your passion for people, your family, and in particular passionate about God and for God. And so we just wish you the best, and look forward to seeing you again. And thanks for joining us.
So I know it should become Samnida. I know that already.
Right.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
So I'm going to conclude the interview by I'm going to greet our viewers and audience in Korean.
Right.
C 라디오 청취자 여러분, 또 시청자 여러분, 이렇게 릭 칼탈디 변호사님과 함께 이렇게 인터뷰를 가졌습니다. 영어로 했기 때문에 좀 불편한 점이 있으시겠지만 이 포스팅과 함께 한국말로 요약된 내용들을 올리겠습니다. 그래서 함께 봐주시고요. 또 이번 선거에 여러분께서 많이 동참하시면 또 후원할 수 있는 그런 기회도 가질 수 있을 것 같습니다. 또 도울 수 있는 방법에 대해서는 우리 이 비디오가 포스팅되는 유튜브에 그 내용들을 담아놓고 또 필라인에 여러분들이 보실 수 있을 것 같습니다. 자, 그러면 우리가 또 다음 C톡 시간까지 여러분 안녕히 계십시오.